I'm just waiting for the prompt. Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
We started transcription, it says. All right. Good afternoon.
Good
Good
afternoon.
afternoon. It's Wednesday, February 14th, 2024 at 2:34 p.m. My name is Steve Fogelman, Chair of the Baltimore City Board of Ethics. And this meeting is being conducted virtually via Microsoft Teams. So we will call the meeting to order. We will let you know that all participants in the public session of the board meeting acknowledge and consent to the video and audio recording of the public session and the publication of the recording on the board's website and socials. Per the Open Meetings Act, the board discloses that it adjourned its virtual open meeting on January 10th, 2024 to enter administrative session at around 4:09 p.m. We had 4 board members present. We discussed administrative matters, including complaints. The board may need to close some or all of this meeting to preserve the confidentiality mandated by the Ethics Code or is otherwise authorized by the State Open Meetings Act. Likewise, upon adjournment of the open session, the board may reconvene for an administrative session to discuss non-public administrative functions of the board. Okay. We've got some feedback there, some interference. I'm not sure who it's, where it's, yeah, there's some papers going there. Arnold, you got a microphone down on the, by your papers?
Mute my mic as soon as I find the microphone. I'll mute it.
Okay, no problem. Thanks. All right, we talked about our schedules or for today, our time schedules.
Okay. Where? Steve, you have disappeared.
Arnold, you're on mute.
Thank you. I was thinking it looked like Maggie is saying some very kind words, but she's muted.
We have it appeared to have lost Steve.
Okay. We'll send out an APT.
I'm going to text him in case he's unaware of that.
Okay.
Right. Since I don't want to be forward, but if someone would like to take on the chairmanship for the duration of Steve's absence, we could at least go. We do have a quorum to going through the approval of written minutes from the last session on January 10th of 2024.
I volunteer to do that only because I'm old and also I'm the senior member.
Yes.
In the absence of Chairman Fogelman, I hope that we can entertain the commentary. Steve, you going to come in? No. Okay. We can entertain our guest, who Nashawn, I hope, will introduce. Nashawn, you're there, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Would you introduce and explain the presence of our guest, please?
Sure. We have Deputy Director Ventrise with the Be More Beautiful gift solicitation waiver, as well as Miss Maggie from Zeke Cohen's office for the summer field trips.
I see. As from the staff's point of view, do we have a preference for which guest we would like to speak with first, or do the board members have a preference?
No preference from me.
No.
Okay.
But are we supposed to, in reference to the meetings, the approval of the meetings, the minutes, I mean?
Yeah, I think we can do that when at the end, when
Okay.
he just texted me, he has to reboot Teams on the phone. So
Okay,
it will
great.
take a minute, and so we can vote on the minutes at the end of the agenda, out of order, so to say.
Thank you.
Okay,
then.
perfect.
May I suggest that we start with Be More Beautiful? So that would be Ms. Van Dries.
Okay.
Oh, Svendries.
Van Dries, oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
No worries.
So. Ready
Okay.
when you are.
All right. I apologize. It's my first time at an ethics board meeting. So I'm Brittany Vendries. I'm actually the executive director of the Environmental Control Board. And the Environmental Control Board is home to the adjudication process for environmental citations, but we're also home to Be More Beautiful, which is a community program. We do a bunch of things, but mainly we provide resources to communities and organizations that want to beautify their neighborhoods, beautification, cleaning, greening, that kind of thing. One of the main things we do to kind of forward that is to do grants. We provide grants through a few programs. The one that would be relevant to this particular request is Care-a-Lot. Care-a-Lot is a program where we provide neighborhoods with funding to take care of vacant city-owned lots. So it's pretty low bar in terms of what we give them. It's about $23 every time they visit a lot, a $2 coordinator fee for whoever we're dealing with. And they can visit lots, I think up to 11 times throughout the grow season. It's much cheaper for the city to empower people to care for their own lots than it is for the city to send out DPW and have them, pay for the labor and the machinery and all that stuff. What we hope to do specifically with, well, I should back up a little bit and say what we plan to do is put a donative link on the Baltimore Civic Fund website and also get QR codes and things like that so that people could donate to Care-a-Lot. And the money that we'd use would probably go towards equipment grants, which is kind of like a side grant to Care-a-Lot. So you want to do Care-a-Lot, you want to care for these vacant lots, but you don't have the equipment to do so. So when you apply for the Care-a-Lot grant, you can ask for money towards like mowers and things like that, shovels, and we will provide you funding. So most of the program is funded through city funds, through our general fund, money we've carved out of our own budget. And so the donations would help us go towards the equipment. It's just a bit easier in terms of managing the money than, because it's such a small amount, the $23 per lot visit, it would be, we don't anticipate a ton of donations. I've only had one person ask me for one. So it would just be easier to put it towards a smaller thing like, or maybe like one solid thing like equipment versus trying to divvy it up to particular grants among particular people or particular organizations. So that I think is everything. Please let me know if you have any questions.
I have a question, if I may.
Sure.
Should I address you as chairperson or should I address you? Your proper title is what again?
Me?
Yes.
The executive director.
Okay, director. Director, you're saying if someone were to approach you all and this, if, when you get to this phase, that you would give them money to acquire equipment. There's no lending program. There's no lending possibility where you just loan them what they need and they return it to you.
We do have a tool bank that we put money into. The problem is sometimes we've loaned them equipment and the equipment has gotten lost, taken, things like that. And then we have to pay the tool bank for missing equipment or damaged equipment. So we prefer to give them the equipment or, give them the money to do the equipment. They do have to provide us with a receipt. And that way they have longer use of it to continue caring for the lot even after our program is done.
Thank you for just curious. Thank you.
No worries.
Oh, Noel?
I have a question, Director. Thank you for coming. How long has this program been in existence?
So Care-a-Lot has been with the Environmental Control Board since 2017, 2018. But it did exist before, maybe under DPW, and before that with planning. It bounced around a bit, but it kind of got lost in the sauce, for lack of a better phrase, because those are such big agencies. So it ended up with us under former Mayor Pugh, and it's been with us ever since. We also use them for our diversion program. When people violate city code, it's the first violation. We send them to our Be More Beautiful liaisons who talk to them about how they violated the city code and, what city services, how to fix things in the future, tie them in with people, and then we abate their first citation. So that's kind of how it connects to the Environmental Control Board's adjudication process.
And do you have a process to follow your grantees, the individuals who take on the grants and beautify Baltimore? Is there a way to follow their progress?
Well, they do provide us with pictures for every time they visit the lot. We also have a robust volunteer network. So anytime they have something big happening, we tie in our volunteers. If they want to do like an event or a block party, we might try and bring in like the mayor to come by or something like that.
Okay.
But there's no requirement during the actual program for them to do any sort of event work. We just track them in terms of pictures and reports.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
And Ms. Vendries, I just have a comment. Well, first a question. Did you prepare that application for waiver? Or
I did.
someone on your- Well, I want to just say it was an excellent job. And I really thought it was very well done, very complete and easy to follow and makes our job a lot easier. So thank you very much.
Definitely second that.
That
Agreed.
makes me feel so good. Thank you.
All right. Unless there's any other questions, I apologize for the tech failure there on my part. I did, however, review the application, Madam Executive Director. So I missed about, I think, a third of your oral presentation, but I feel comfortable voting knowledge. Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the waiver at this time?
I move to approve the waiver application.
Second.
I hear a second. All right, Arnold. All right,
Yeah.
all in favor of approving the gift solicitation or governmental gift solicitation waiver application for Be More Beautiful, signify by saying aye.
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 All right. Thank you very much for being here today. We appreciate
Yes. Great job, Director.
So much. Thank you. And happy Valentine's Day.
Happy
Bye.
Valentine's Day.
Hey.
It's my anniversary too.
it. All right. Do we want to go back and run through the minutes? Or do we have somebody here from Councilman Cohen's office?
Councilman Cohen's office.
Yes,
we have
Miss
this-
Maggie.
Oh, great.
Hi,
Yeah.
everybody. Yep.
Hello.
Hi. A little intimidating going after Brittany, who apparently had an A+ waiver memo. Golly.
Yep.
Need to see the exemplars.
Talk to us about the summer field trip.
Sure. So this will be this is a second coming of us making this request. We came last year a little bit kind of more shorter order because we were really building the plane as we were flying it last year. Just as a quick sort of history recap, I think late last April in a education and youth committee hearing, the school system shared that they were only going to be doing 4-day school 4-day weeks in the summer for student learning, Monday through Thursday, that there would not be any programming on Fridays. And so one of the outgrowths of that was, I think, a really great coming together of some philanthropic and civic and cultural institutional partners, along with our office and the council member, to really try and come up with some gaps or some stop gaps for the Friday lack of programming. And we kind of coined it Field Trip Fridays. And we were able to have, I think, about 73 unique field trips. We had $30,000 in micro grants that were provided by the Open Society Foundation to do 18 distinct kind of different micro grants. And then we had, I sorry, please forgive me, I'll pull up the stat, but several hundred like in-kind tickets that were given by about a dozen of our cultural institutions around the city. So think the aquarium, Port Discovery, the zoo, the Museum of Science and Industry. And what was really neat was, you know, everyone we asked, no one said no. And then actually a couple people that we didn't think to ask, because we were kind of just doing this on the fly, reached out to us and said, can we participate, which was really exciting. Baltimore Museum of Art, the Walters as well. So we are hoping to grow that program this year. I think we had a great kind of step back conversation with some of our cultural institution partners in November. And I think one of the takeaways was Fridays are one of their busiest days, and also that the student groups and families would love to have a little bit more flexibility as well. So haven't quite figured out sort of the new tagline, but it might be more than just Fridays this year. And we did put the request for the grant higher last year. I think it was sub 50,000, and looked at the $50,000 to $150,000 range. Likely not to really much exceed 50, but did want to, I think the feedback that we heard very much so was that the micro grants were really something that the youth leading institutions, the summer programming, they really appreciated having the autonomy to be able to think and figure out kind of their own programs and field trips. And so we really want to kind of try and up that ask this year. You know, in an ideal world, every single grantee would get access to one micro grant so that they could plan at least one field trip for the summer that was, you know, perhaps outside of the Baltimore city limits, you know, requires a bus or, you know, the fee to entrance to someplace, food, et cetera. It can really add up. And so anyway, I think that's what we're hoping for. We're hoping that all the institutions from last year agree to come back. We've added a couple additional ones to the growing list, and just trying to think about how we can refine that and really institutionalize it. And, you know, hopefully, ideally, eventually get it out of a grant process or grant reliant process. But for now, that's where we are.
Thanks, Maggie. Do we have any questions?
I do. Hi, Maggie. How are you?
Hi, good, thanks.
So, can you give an example of the grantees? I saw when you filled out the application, I did go to the website for ZCON to see the summer field trips, and it seems like a great program. Who applies for the grants?
Yeah, so
Examples.
so there are the way we did it last year was you had to be a member of the Youth Summer Collaborative, which is kind of a consortium of nonprofits that are youth-serving nonprofits within, and so they are local nonprofits that register with Baltimore's Promise, which kind of runs the Youth Summer Collaborative. So, for example, Elevate, which is kind of I think a relatively well-known program in a nonprofit kind of youth-facing, youth-serving program, is one of those nonprofits that would serve it. But it was really, and that's kind of a little bit more of a I would say well-established group. I can pull up the names of some of our kind of who some of the smaller partners were. And at the end it was great because we actually were able to got feedback, you know, from both the institutions and the, I can give you actually, I have a couple, we did, I'll just like read a couple of the feedback pieces. We had a group called For My Kids, which is one of the groups that applied, and they are a member of the Summer Youth Collaborative. And they said, we used the funds to take two trips. We took our kids to the Sankofa Children's Museum of African Culture, and we took them to Washington, D.C. for the Nationals versus Mets game. These trips are meaningful because our youth are able to learn about African cultural traditions and even received drumming lessons. And we prioritized exposing the youth to culturally diverse activities. And then another was, let's see here, I've got One got a grant. One program was called the Baltimore Youth Arts Program, and they went to the Baltimore Museum of Art and also the National Aquarium. And they said they were grateful to receive funding for Field Trip Fridays and used the support to bring youth to the Baltimore Museum of Art and the National Aquarium. Staff at the National Aquarium and Fabrication Lab spoke to apprentices on how the arts play an essential role at the aquarium. They demonstrated their design process, how each installation is built, and also led a tour of their animal rehabilitation space. This experience was important as youth learned how the arts are applied to careers they may not immediately think of when learning about the creative sector. So those are just a handful of, or a couple but yeah, so let me just see if there's any other. CASA was another program that received funding and tickets through this process. But yeah, they all are a registered 501c3, and they are all registered under the Youth Summer Collaborative, is the very short answer.
Okay. All right. I was wondering because I know Enoch Pratt had a summer series as well. I didn't know if they went through your office to participate. I was curious.
No, that program was separate. The summer reading kind of programming that they did.
No, they had tickets for the aquarium and so forth. But yes,
the Read to Reef. Yep. So Read to Reef
exactly
is a separate one that they do kind of in direct sort of partnership, I think, with the aquarium.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, but I think what was really neat in particular, I think the takeaway for and what was really powerful when we shared some of these quotes with the institutions was the sense that just these are institutions that many of us know, but as one, I'll just give you this one more quote. This is from a nonprofit called Natural Born Champions. They went to the National Aquarium and they said this was some of our campers' first time at the aquarium, let alone downtown Baltimore. So it was really pretty powerful connecting these cultural institutions with many of our students who just, I think it was surprising to them to learn that this was the first time some of them were stepping foot in their doorways.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Maggie, thanks for being here. And we will go ahead and deliberate unless there's a motion out there.
I just had a one question / comment. First, I think it's great that City Councilman Cohen's doing this, but I'm not sure why he does it as opposed to somebody else. And I understand that they're not targeting controlled donors, but they will be the controlled donors will almost necessarily be the subject of requests. And I guess the concern I have is not that a controlled donor will be getting preferential treatment from Councilman Cohen because they donated to this worthy program, but rather a controlled donor may feel like they better contribute or else they may get non-preferential treatment. In other words, it feels like maybe Councilman Cohen's request for a donation to a controlled donor will make that controlled donor feel like they have to contribute in order to stay in well, I'm putting it bluntly, stay in the councilman's good graces. And I feel like that's almost an inevitable feeling that they're going to have.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, the board's considered hundreds of these kinds of requests over the years. And in a way, you could say that about every single gift solicitation waiver that this board's ever seen. Does it help that an elected official is associated with a cause? It most certainly does. And they hope to get that funding. But I guess in this case, for Maggie, is there anything given this particular project that you think would that there would be some kind of impropriety or optics of impropriety here.
Yeah, no, it's obviously it's the right question, John, to ask, and Steve, I was sort of thinking as you were sort of forming your response, I was thinking, gosh, I wonder how that, you know, I suppose in some ways you could have that problem across the board. You know, what I will say is in terms of answering sort of why the council person, you know, the short answer is because there was a need and a vacuum that's not currently being filled. I very much think that our long-term goal and what we are really moving toward this year. So last year, the asks were made exclusively by Councilmember Cohen, just because it was sort of the nature of kind of the timing of this being so close to the summer. We have already had conversations with the director of the Mayor's Office of Child and Family Success, with the executive director of Baltimore's Promise, with the director of the Mayor's Child and Family Success, because I think what we want to figure out is long term, how is this not something that's associated with Councilmember Cohen? You know, in any office, it really is about making sure that there is something in perpetuity that is, you know, organized into sort of the summer planning that is actually factoring in all sort of aspects of kids learning, including the ability to have field trips. So it felt really important to, I think, to try and sort of start building that long-term solution in place. So just, you know, I think I will just say that this is not in any way our long-term plan to be coming at you guys every year for this, but is very much the hope that whether it's the mayor's office, whether it's Baltimore's Promise, or the fund, that someone is trying to sort of take this mantle up, that is not a controlled donor, and is also not an elected official.
Thank you for that.
All right, any other questions? All right, Maggie, we'll bid you adieu. Have a great day.
All right, thank you all so much. Appreciate it. Thanks, bye.
Take care.
All right, any discussion?
No, I mean, I still think it, you know, we have to be mindful of this dynamic where a public official who may be sitting in some city council hearing and making a judgment on something, how a controlled donor can think, well, if I don't give, I may not be getting the reception I like when I go to the city council for something I need or something I want. And I understand there's a need, and I accept Maggie's representation that they don't want it to be the councilman only doing this. They'd rather have it more institutionalized, but he's doing it because nobody else is doing it. And I understand what you said about, you know, it's very helpful to have a councilman on your side when you're soliciting these funds. But I think the other side of that coin is that's the exact reason I have a concern that somebody thinks, well, then I'm going to have the councilman on my side if I give. So anyway, with that said, I'm happy to listen to others or defer to the group on this.
I'd like to comment. Oh, sorry. No, you want to say something?
Oh,
Maybe.
oh, thank you. Just briefly, to your point, John, that's the reason why we have multiple city councilmen, right? So that if we have a situation where someone feels as though they're worried about falling out of good graces with one, you have others, right? Hopefully, a council person would be above the fray and above judging someone who would not donate or provide funding. I just think the need is greater than that one concern.
All right, any further Arnold, you had a question or a statement?
Well, it's an interesting comment that Noel just made. My question, frankly, was, John, how would we prevent? How can that concern be addressed that there may be a feeling of pressure to support? How can that be avoided?
Well, I gotta say, I'd like us to get back to this particular request. I mean, this is definitely a discussion that I believe we can have at any time in the near future. But this is a continuing summer field trip 2.0, meaning it has been previously approved by this board for a gift solicitation waiver. We're under some time constraints today. We have a lot of things that are going to, quite frankly, be more in the weeds than this one is. So, are we able to talk about at another general of these? Yes.
Okay.
All right. Does anybody want to make a motion to approve this gift solicitation waiver request?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second for Noel.
All right. Second by Arnold for Noel. All in favor of the approval thereof signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay.
We have any guests, any presenters?
Yeah, we do have guests for the administrative part, but we have one carryover from the last meeting, which is the mayor's acceptance of the offer of free CIAA tickets. We had an oral presentation by the mayor's office last time, and the board did not vote on the matter, pending some additional research into the matter. The background, again, the tenant of the arena has offered to the mayor a free suite and tickets to the upcoming CIAA tournament. The arena is, of course, a major tenant of the city and thus a controlled donor. And I did a review of the contract between the arena and between the tenant and the city. There is no express language in the contract that would include, could be interpreted as even the intention of having this kind of arrangement, free space and free tickets included there. There is a provision that permits the city to use the arena on sufficient notice for city purposes, but it is not an express term in the contract. Because it is a new contract, it's only, I believe, a year or a year and a half old, there's also no course of conduct of accepting a suite or tickets based on an implied contractual arrangement, which I believe was underlying the previous administration's habit of accepting those tickets. And which was addressed in the ethics opinion 12-001 back in 2012, where the absence of a system on how to distribute those tickets that are the result of a contractual arrangement was criticized. This is not the case here. That opinion is not on point. What I believe is on point is the ethics opinion 22-002, which the board passed in April of 2022. And if I may read this here, the board determined that where sports events are concerned, sport events as separate from cultural events, if the elected official will not be performing a function connected with constituent services, it is more likely that a free ticket or admission to a sporting event is offered solely by virtue of the official's prestige of office. Acceptance of the free ticket or admission, therefore, would be prohibited by section 6-36A, which is the prestige of office prohibition, that someone under the jurisdiction of the city ethics law is not permitted to receive a financial or a benefit for himself or for another. I believe this situation is probably best, and that is I don't want to preempt the board's decision on this, or discussion on this, but I think there is black letter law in the shape of Ethics Opinion 22-002 that would not be in favor of the acceptance of free tickets. But I will defer to the board on that.
Let me just lead off by saying that I think that Ethics Opinion 22-002, April 6, 2022, is pretty much on point here. And quite frankly, a compelling case was made by our former ethics director, and I just don't see any deviation here. You'll remember that last year we had a similar situation. You'll remember that the CIAA tournament, I think it's like a 5-year deal here in Baltimore. So it's an ongoing yearly event. And last year, I believe the mayor's office paid for tickets. And I don't understand what's changed here so that we would be considering a gift waiver. As I've been thinking about this, and there's many ways, if you go on the club level at the Ravens game or at the Orioles game, you're going to run into people, okay? You know, the Orioles and the Ravens, they have a deal. They have a lease. They have, suites that are designated. And so that takes it out of a gift. If you look at our gift acceptance law in section 6 here of the ethics code, we're talking about cultural events. We're talking about educational events, but nothing about sporting events that would be an exemption. So just to close on this, that there are several ways that they can take care of this. They can amend their budget and put this stuff in here, but I can't find any way within the ethics code that doesn't lead to the same conclusion that this ethics opinion of 2022 came to, and that is that it is, likely 636 violation, prima facie. Thank you. That was authored by Mr. Hochstetler, I believe.
Yes.
I agree that that this situation seems to be covered by that opinion, and I would be in favor of denying the request for an exemption here.
Noel, Arnold.
That opinion sounds well considered, well thought out, and I am inclined to allow it to prevail. So I agree with John, and I presume I'm agreeing with you as well.
Right. So I read the opinion, and I agree that there are alternatives to what's being presented to us, but I'm interested to know the question as to what has changed from last year to this year before I, in my consideration, I would like to know.
Sure. I don't think so, Chris. I mean, I'm thinking on my memory from last year. You were here for that, right?
Yes, I believe, if memory serves right, it was a very rushed situation in which a large contingent of free tickets was offered to the mayor's office for distribution. I think it was several $1,000s, several tens of $1,000s worth of tickets, and the board weighed in cautionary regarding the acceptance of that. At which point the mayor's office determined that they would pay for a certain amount of tickets, thus taking it out of the gift provisions and making it a transactional provision that is outside of our jurisdiction, and it is, in my opinion, probably the proper way of handling this. So that is the only difference is that we were approached a little earlier this year, and thus had the time to deliberate and do additional research, since also the contract, I believe, was not quite dry last year when the issue came up between the tenant and the city.
Yeah, and there were 12 tickets at a value of about $220 a piece.
I think for two tickets now is the 229 for general admission. I looked, it was two for a pair of tickets. So if we assume, you know, only a dozen, you know, we're way beyond the scope of the acceptable minimum provision, minimum $20 or maximum $20 that could be accepted. So I think pretty much on all levels, be that the controlled donor, be that the amount of the gift, and then the fact that this is not a cultural event, but based on the prior analysis of the board, a sports event, which is expressly taken out of the cultural event context by previous board. I think leaves very little choice but to stick with the precedent.
Yeah.
So
I move to deny the request. And unless there's more further discussion, I'm sorry, Steve.
That's okay. Is there further discussion?
No. Mm-mm.
Yeah, we only know what we remember from last year. Yeah, it's just one of these things. These tickets, there's ways we can make this so we never have to talk about this again, because it'll be part of a lease. It'll be part of that's what happens. That's why the governor the box. That's why, you know, leases state, and then they don't come to they're not our province anymore. So maybe that will happen in the future.
Well, and here's a question. Well, in our denial, is there a way to make these suggestions, or do we just leave this to? Okay. Thank you.
Well,
So
I can include the
Chris?
suggestion that Steve mentioned, the chairman mentioned, in our response to the mayor's claims.
Okay, great. So in light of that and understanding that we will articulate available alternatives, I second the motion.
All in favor of the denial of the request, the gift request waiver, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. The waiver request is denied. Okay, thank you. We do not have any old business today, Chris.
That was the old business.
That was
the only thing left on our agenda for the public meeting is the metrics that I can provide very quickly, and then the vote on the minutes from the last meeting. So if I, because Nishant has a cold, and I volunteered to take on the reading of the metrics. So the help desk has received 42 help desk requests and resolved by staff members in December, 74 help desks received and resolved by board staff in January. So far, fiscal year, I don't think we have a total here. The ethics training, 56 people completed the ethics training in December, 19 ethics training in January. Total fiscal year 24 attendees, 222. Lobbyists, we have 72 registered lobbyists so far this year. We had to extend the deadline because our system again had problems that are in the process of being fixed. As you recall, we are getting a new system, but it is not in place yet. So our IT department was able to assist those lobbyists with the proper disclosures. For fiscal year 24, we have received 14 complaints. There were 13 dismissed. One new complaint was received. I don't believe I have seen that yet. I just got a question here, but I will report to that to the board at the next meeting. We've had the waiver requests today. There's no further waiver requests pending, and I believe that is it regarding the two gift solicitation waiver applications were submitted to the board. We just discussed it. We have 14 active waivers and 15 expired or rescinded waivers. Yeah, so most of the agencies have reported back to ethics with a list of employees that are required to file disclosures. So we will be sending notifications for disclosures to the appropriate city employees in the next days and weeks. And that is it for the metrics.
Arnold?
It appears that I've read the chat, and I think Councilwoman
Yeah,
Porter asking.
Right.
that is for
Yes, I
the,
responded to her question separately.
yeah.
Okay,
We'll be right.
And-
Don't worry.
okay, thank you.
That would be for the administrative part. So what's left is the vote on the minutes from last meeting.
Okay.
I read them yesterday. I'm having a hard time pulling them up today. I had no issues, no edits or corrections. What say the rest of you?
I had one edit or typo correction in the CIAA tournament and suite and tickets donation section. There's a sentence that said that Ms. Edmonds denied any past ticket donation and explained that the city brought tickets last year. I think we meant bought.
Right.
Okay, I will correct that. Thank you.
All right.
It is noticeable that Maura has been absent and has been, she is very much missed.
Definitely. So, all right, so I'll move that we approve the January 10 public session minutes with typographical correction. Second? Got a second? All in favor of said approval, say.
Aye.
All right, approved. I believe we are concluded our business here in session. It is 3:21 p.m. And I will go ahead and adjourn the public session. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Nishant, if you wouldn't mind stopping.